Hey, this is Senator Justin Reedy coming to you from Annapolis here at the end of the third week of the General Assembly session here in 2023. We are starting to pick up steam a little bit. Next week will probably be when we start having longer bill hearings in our committees. Still working on legislation, getting it drafted and finished in a lot of cases, but we'll start seeing a lot more activity in committees starting next week. The big news this week was Governor Moore released his budget for the next year. And, it's sort of a good news, bad news type of thing. Obviously, you have to have an operating budget. It's the one thing that we're required to do here in Annapolis. And Governor Moore, the budget he's released is balanced, of course, which it has to be balanced. It also doesn't grow dramatically. It grows a little bit less than the rate of inflation. And he has left about close to $1 billion fund balance in surplus. So that's a good news. Some of the maybe not so good news or bad news is that they're allocating $500 million to new transportation priorities. It's not clear exactly what those transportation priorities will be, but despite the moniker of leaving no one behind, we're pretty concerned that it's going to signal a return to the days where only expensive mass transit projects were the focus, rather than roads and bridges and expanding road capacity in other parts of the state that are not in the mass transit centers. So we're concerned about that. Also concerned that with this big surplus, of which they're spending some of and are leaving some in place for now, concerned that there's no tax relief at all in the budget or planned for in the budget at all. And I believe very strongly that Maryland is going to continue to be held back in our economy until we can reduce the tax, regulatory, and cost of living burden that really harms working families, retirees, and our small job creators and our small businesses. So there was not a lot of progress signaled on that. They're also pushing in the budget the funding to try to expand the minimum wage faster than they originally were going to in state law. So there's some things to be concerned about in the budget. My view is this: on a budget, we have to pass a balanced budget. I take, Governor Moore has extended that he wants to cooperate with Republicans and Democrats. I take him at his word on that, and I'm going to work hard to see if we can't ensure fiscal responsibility, and also that we really don't leave anybody behind, that every sector and every part of the state gets the things that they need, but we also have a fiscally responsible approach that we don't end up in 3 or 4 or 5 years, looking at a bigger sort of fiscal cliff. So in the state of Maryland, that's going to be a big focus for the budget this session. As I said, right now the proposal is at least it was not as big of an explosion as I thought, but I have concerns. So I'm kind of keeping a close eye on that. The other big issue that we talked about a lot this week and has been on the minds of a lot of people, of course, you know how committed I've been to the Second Amendment and to the right of people to keep and bear arms. All of our constitutional rights are very important. The Second Amendment is the one that seems to be perhaps the most under assault constantly in Maryland. We got a great decision from the Supreme Court that loosened up concealed carry permits to make sure that law-abiding citizens can have a concealed carry permit and have the right to carry and protect themselves and their families and their property. Unfortunately, in a time when violent crime is out of control and criminals who are using guns purposely to hurt people is happening all over the place, particularly in the Baltimore region, the focus of some of the General Assembly leadership and Democrats is putting in bills that try to restrict this concealed carry right and try to make it to where, yes, you can get a permit, but you can't really use the permit most anywhere. It's a SB 1. It's a really bad bill. And I've been spending some time this week defending and fighting for the rights or Second Amendment rights, but also pointing out sort of the hypocrisy of the biggest issue we have in Maryland from a public safety standpoint is violent criminals, repeatedly breaking the law, many times using guns that they obtained, of course, illegally, that are not legal firearms. And the focus of the General Assembly right now, from a lot of the groups that you see around in Annapolis, seems to be on what more can we do to restrict law-abiding citizens' rights. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. It's wrong. And we're going to fight hard to defeat that bill and again, continue to fight to expand the opportunity for people to defend themselves and exercise their constitutional rights. There's a lot more happening. I look forward to updating you in the coming days and next week about some of our legislative package and what we're doing to advance common sense conservative principles and also work on some technical and specific problems that were brought to me by by constituents. So look forward to updating you about that in the coming week. Hope you have a great weekend, and God bless.